Good morning. Our main story this morning. Police investigating the murder of a Russian man in London say they've begun contacting other Russian exiles in Britain to discuss their safety.
Forensics teams have continued working at the home of 68-year-old Nikolai Glushkov, who was found dead on Monday. Police say at this stage it's not being connected to the poisoning of the former Russian spy Sergei Skripal and his daughter in Salisbury. John McManus has more.
68-year-old Nikolai Glushkov found dead at his home on this unassuming road in southwest London on Monday. But Mr Glushkov's life was anything but ordinary. The post-mortem has revealed he was murdered, killed by compression to the neck. Unusually, counter-terrorism police are leading the investigation because of Mr Glushkov's past links. In the 1990s, he was a director of the Russian airline Aeroflot, but was jailed after being found guilty of fraud and money laundering. He sought political asylum in the UK and was still being pursued by Russia. And he was friends with the Russian businessman Boris Berezovsky, who was found hanged in 2013. An open verdict was recorded, but Nikolai Glushkov believed he'd been murdered. The deaths of 14 of the Russians who died in the UK in what may be suspicious circumstances are being re-examined. Some observers believe it's time to join the dots.
Mr Glushkov's death fits into a wider pattern over the last 12 years or so of Kremlin opponents dropping dead across Europe. Now, the consequences for the Kremlin of this were limited for far too long. The UK response has recently been much stronger, but there's still an awful lot more that we could do.
The former PR executive Lord Bell, a friend of Mr Glushkov, has told the BBC that he suspects he was killed after being deemed a traitor by the Russian state. Police say that at present there's no link between the murder in London and the poisoning of Sergei Skripal and his daughter in Salisbury, but some Russian exiles are being contacted about their safety.
Our reporter John McManus is outside the Russian embassy for us this morning. And John, lots of new lines coming in and, and shuffling, isn't it, in terms of how much people need to be told, as well as we understand there's an international diplomatic situation happening.
Absolutely. We know that police, because they told us last night, we know that they are contacting some Russian exiles to talk to them about their safety. That doesn't mean that they think they're in particular danger, but they just want to have a chat with them to talk about their lives and their circumstances. And the diplomatic fallout is very intense as well, concerning what happened to Sergei Skripal and his daughter Yulia, who were poisoned in Salisbury on the 4th of March using a nerve agent. Theresa May says that nerve agent was produced in Soviet-era Russia. She's pointed the finger very firmly at Moscow. The Russians have denied all knowledge of what happened, but the diplomatic row has been absolutely huge. The Prime Minister is expelling 23 diplomats from the Russian embassy behind me, and the Russians are likely to respond in kind, expelling British diplomats from our embassy in Moscow. And the war of words just getting much hotter day by day. Yesterday, Boris Johnson, the Foreign Secretary, said that it was overwhelmingly likely that the Russian President Vladimir Putin had personally ordered that nerve attack in Salisbury. The Russians say those comments are disgusting. They're really very annoyed about that. So quite a lot going on here diplomatically. It doesn't look like it's going to cool down anytime soon.
OK, John, thanks very much for going through all of that. John McManus for us.